I've never been sued before, but you know, I wouldn't risk it. We don't
Hmm.
have too many FISBOs in the greater Pasadena area anymore. As a matter of fact, according to NAR, every year for the last 20 years, the number of people that use a realtor versus not has been going up. You would think with the internet and all these other options that people have, that less and less people would be actually using a real estate agent. It's over 90%. 20 years ago, it was close to 70%. Uh, the reason why people realize it's complicated, there's a ton of liability. They don't have the time. They don't have the expertise. And frankly, it's cheaper, faster, easier, better for them to hire a professional than to try to do it themselves. Yeah.
A lot of people are going to be listening here now, hoping that you can give them some insight because, like I mentioned, a lot of us are flipping houses or doing some wholesales, those type of deals. We want to sell these properties quickly, properties fast. And there seems to be some strategies that you might be able to provide that would help us with that. What are some of those strategies to help us sell houses a lot quicker?
Well, at the end of the day, if you want to get the most amount of money, that's usually market price because there's no such thing as over market price. I mean, that just doesn't exist. Market price is market price. And, quite simply, if you want to get market price, put it out to the marketplace and, you know, price it correctly. I mean, in our marketplace, so in the last 3 weeks, I sold three different properties. All of them I put on for $999. It's actually a little low in our area, but $999. And all of them, when we put them on the market, we got showings for the first 5 days. And then on day six, almost no showings at all. So in our marketplace, in most marketplaces that are pretty tight, you actually make more money the faster you sell it. And you'll actually make more money if you allow the market to bid it up, to bid it to where it needs to go. If you price it too high, it gets really hard to sell it after a few weeks if you're still on the market. Because guess what happens? If you put something on the market that's worth $999 and you put it on the market for $1,000,001, everyone's going to look at that in a week and a half and say, well, it's not worth $1,000,001. I'm a big believer of pricing things a little below market price and getting multiple offers, because at the end of the day, your investors know this too. It's not only about the price, it's about the terms. Can it close?
Hmm.
You know,
One of those things that we've experienced too, and this is just like we just had this recently where we had a property that we did exactly that. We priced it under market a little bit. We're hoping for a quick sale and to kind of drive some interest. However, the first sale fell through. And now you have this spiral effect where now the property's back on the market. There isn't anything wrong with it, but the property's back on the market. And now there's this perception that there must be something wrong here. There must be,
it,
what are we missing? And then it happens like this self perpetuating issue. Like, how do you fix something like that?
it's tough. That's kind of, I call it the kiss of death, because it's really hard to get all of that magic again. All the more reason to put it on the market a little bit below market and try to get as many offers as you possibly can. What I do, so I actually had this situation 2 weeks ago. I had a house, we put it on the market for $999. We wound up having 7 offers on it. It went up to about $1,000,001. And that first buyer backed out. And the reason why they backed out actually wasn't because the property, it was because the buyer is 4 months pregnant and her contractor could not guarantee that he'd have the house finished by the time the baby arrived. So they pulled out. Well, what we wound up doing is I had basically, in a way, I had like 6 backup offers because we had 6 other offers. And I told all of those offers that, when I gave them bad news that they didn't get it initially, and that I told them we would be going back to them before we went on the open market if something happens with the first buyer. And they always, oh, wow, thank you so much. They love all that, because going to the open market, when you change it on the MLS from being in backup position to active, it's kind of the kiss of death. Like you said, it's hard to capture that, but it's easier to capture that if you already have buyers in line. And so what I wound up doing is I called the top 3 buyers and got permission from my seller to give them the magic number that she wanted. And one of them raised their hand and said, I'll do it. And we were able to pop it back into escrow without going on the open market again. So it made that backup buyer feel really special. Frankly, if we had to go on the open market, I think we would have probably gotten less for it, but they wanted that opportunity. It's a relatively simple strategy, but you, if you don't have a backup buyer, you can't get that strategy. And if you don't price it right, you're not going to get that backup buyer.
Yeah.
I know investors don't want to price things too low. I get it, but you kind of have to trust the market. You have to trust the agent. You have to, and I think it's important to dig into the data. Now, your investors out there, ask them to give them a report of properties that have sold for whatever 5, 10, or 20% over the asking price. They can go into the multiple listing service and pull this data. I just did this for one of my properties. We did a 1 mile radius for the last year, and we found that we had 21 homes that sold 20% or more over the asking price in the last year. So if you can show that that is actually happening in your marketplace, then the likelihood is you could probably, you know, but if
Mhm.
people are not paying over the asking price, you got to be careful. But the only way to figure that out is with data. You're a good realtor is gonna be able to pull that out and show it to you.
Would you say it's still true to this day regarding like when a fix and flipper or somebody goes into these things, your money is still better spent on rehabbing the kitchens and bathrooms and that type of thing? Or is there anything else that should have some more focus than maybe a standard flipper might be paying attention to?
That's a good question. I think obviously I think it matters. Every property is case by case. If you don't have a primary suite, then maybe you create one, outdoor space. There's so many things that come into play with today's buyers. And you make the most amount of money usually with, curb appeal and colors and the amount of space, light, flow. And if you can create a feeling, that's even better. And sometimes you can kind of create that feeling with staging.
Mhm. You know, one of those things that I'd be interested regarding marketing. We touched on that a little bit regarding what realtors do for marketing, and if you're getting check out how they're marketing these properties today. But on our side, one of the best and cheapest things that we ever did was make sure we get a professional photographer in there to take good photos. It's shocking how many times you go to Zillow or wherever, and it's obvious that these are just taken by a realtor off of his cell phone.
So I pay about $400 for every photo shoot. My properties look fantastic. This is the thing, you got to think about people are very visual. Most people actually don't read all of the comments, the agent detail, the description of the property. There was this Wall Street Journal article. It was a study from Harvard, I think, and they found that um, 60% of the people read the first two sentences of the listing, 40% read the whole thing. So most of the buyers are not going to read the whole thing. But I think if we are talking about the chemistry and there's kind of like a way of doing descriptions, your first two sentences should have the meat and potatoes, shouldn't have too much fluff. We're selling things, but you really should have the basics in the first two sentences. That's what people are going to read. But like I said, a lot of people they won't even read. They're looking at the photos, and there's even a chemistry about the photos. You don't want to have too many photos because guess what? If you have too many photos, they don't need to come to the house. They've already seen the house. I think it's a
Mhm.
mistake to have 70, 80, 90 photos. Frankly, there's no reason for them to come because when you're selling a house, your first showing is really on the internet. That's your first showing. And when they come to the house, that's what I call the validation showing. They're there to validate because before somebody comes to a house, they're going to Google you. They're going to go Google Earth you. They're going to Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin.com you. They're going to e-appraise you. They're going to do a walkability score. They're going to do all these things in their computer. And then they're going to drive by. And then if they still like it, then they usually make the appointment. But why would you want to kill the opportunity for them to go into your house by giving them way too many photos? Now, I'm not saying don't take a picture of the kitchen. Don't take a picture of the bathroom. You should take a picture of all those things, but you don't need to do every nook and cranny. Agents wonder why can't I get showings? Why am I not getting any photo? Why am I not getting any contacts being made? Nobody's inquiring. Well, a lot of times it's just too many photos.